Mr. Hutchings, on Sunday, the Newport Beach, Laguna Beach Daily Pilot, which is a subsidiary of the LA Times, it's on their website, did an article about 5 cities in Orange County and how they're trying to deal with this ever-growing pension problem. And their solution is, hey, let's pay more. Let's just try and pay down this unfunded liability and start making contributions like we should.
Right.
But not all can do that, and my cities are scrambling to figure out, even how to make the payment, but then try to find a little extra. So that was 5 cities. It was Fountain Valley, Costa Mesa, Newport Beach, Laguna Beach, all trying to chip in a little more. I'm just curious, how many of your member cities are taking similar approaches?
I don't have a specific figure for you. One of the things that we are encouraging our cities with regards to best practices is not only trying to prepay your unfunded liability, but the challenge even inherently with prepaying your unfunded liability is when you prepay and during the, and Mr. Trando spoke about the ALM cycle, the asset allocation cycle, where they look at all the factors and they it's been determined that people live longer, and the market assumptions are that the goalpost sort of gets moved because if you prepay a certain amount of money based on these actuarial assumptions, and then when the new ALM cycle comes out and says, wait, people are living longer, that means you owe more. That money that you prepay vanishes essentially. I mean, that's the way our cities see it. And so what we have been advising cities to do is establish a 115 trust where they can invest money into a trust account. And again, they have to have the money to invest, but instead of necessarily prepaying directly, I think some cities, and I believe someone from one of the special districts will allude to this, their intent was to save up enough in a 115 trust to pay the entire amount to get out of CalPERS, because when you prepay a significant amount and those actuaries are changed, it's sort of like, well, thank you for the $6 million prepayment. You actually owe us $12 million because you're not completely out of the fund. And so we are advising our cities on a variety of best practices that fit within the confines of current law.
So has Section 115 been discussed earlier in this hearing? No. So maybe you should. That's an Internal Revenue Code Section 115 trust. Could you explain that?
Correct. And so a 115 trust is an option that a local agency can enter into that is established through the IRS that allows a local agency to contribute funds to a protected trust. It must be then applied to CalPERS eventually. It cannot be withdrawn for any other purposes, and I think there are some rare occasions in case of an emergency or something of that nature. But essentially, what you do is you take a budget surplus at the end of the year and you would throw into this 115 trust with the intent to pay down your unfunded liability. Now, some cities are using it as they call it a pension stabilization fund. So if the market jumps, or I'm sorry, if the market dips and rates go up, they've got some money in a pool here to sustain their level of funding. But other cities are using it that are cities or other localities that are a little bit more fiscally sound are saving up that money to then do one lump sum payment to exit out of the system because of the volatility with CalPERS.
So a city and a municipality, they don't pay income tax. So why would you need to have a Section 115 trust fund? What is the genesis of? And again, I'm not an actuary and I'm not an accountant, but from the best of my understanding is these are protected trust funds that were dedicated to pay down your CalPERS liability. So you were able to throw money into a trust, which is then invested on and actually makes a market return. And so you can actually, through compounding and over time, you can grow that trust through investing. It isn't just putting the money under the mattress. You're actually investing those funds and making money out of that fund. And when you have that amount of money, you throw it over to your unfunded liabilities. So then, would you be able then to reflect it as an expense item on your budget? Is that what we're doing?
You can yes, you can.
As opposed to saying it's a cash
Correct.
reimbursement.
It is an expense item on the budget. However, it is not reflected on the GASB report. And so that's one of the hiccups, but I think some cities are willing to take that hit, saying, well, our GASB unfunded liability is this much money, but we have this much set aside in a trust that must be dedicated to CalPERS. So they use that usually in a footnote of their report to offset that unfunded liability.
And what can you invest it in?
I wouldn't want to speak to that.
Okay, but so if it's just in a money market fund, you're not really making a lot of money then.
I know that I do know that companies that establish those trusts have different levels of investment risk that you're willing to take, and
So there's a vendor market
Yes.
out there to help you with your 150
Correct.
trust. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.